Last year, D&B played its first U.S. two-night stand in the summer tour season in West Palm Beach, Florida. Well, this year, South Carolina is the new Florida, as the band plays its first U.S. pair of shows at the same venue on back-to-back nights in Low Country. The D&B post-show stream starts now with a little bit of the audio from tonight's Stone.
Tell me you will.
imagine a sax solo again on number 41. Jeff Coffin, ladies and gentlemen.
It's your boy Concert Viz 34 back at home.
What up, what up? It's your boy Concert Viz 34.
Yep, so your boy Concert Viz 34 coming to you here.
What up, what up? It's your boy Concert Viz 34. Aria. Okay, so this is Aria, and just tell us a little bit about yourself and about your love for the Dave Matthews Band.
I've been a fan of the band since April 28, 1998, and if you recognize the date, that's when Before These Crowded Streets was released.
Alpine is definitely a better venue than Summerfest, but we'll take it. I think I've been going to shows for about 20-something years.
I always tell people, like, compare DMB to now to when I first started. And I got started, in my opinion, I feel like I got started late. Like, I was at the very end of the band's prime. I feel like that 03 to 06 was like the end of the prime. 07, 08 was like, you know, we're at the very end. And then when Roy passed.
But Dave really, this is the thing. Dave has put, Rashawn has been assigned the quarterback of this team. He is the coach, the play caller. He designs the jams. Dave just shows up and plays whatever he's going to play. Low Country, what up? South Carolina, what up? Hilton Head, what up? Myrtle Beach, what up? Columbia, what up? Clemson, y'all need to leave the ACC for real. Sumner, what up? Shout out to Augusta, Georgia. Savannah, what up? Just down 95. Bluffton, what up? Carter Buford on the drums. Just kidding. Shout out Buford, South Carolina, though. What up? What up? It's your boy ConcertViz34. Thank you for joining the DMB post show stream. This show continues a trend of the band really doing some things where there's limited repeats in between venue changes, meaning, okay, this is the first 2-night stand of the summer in the United States, right? But there's not a lot of songs that were repeated from the previous show in St. Louis. And I got some data that I pulled up just to show you how unique this is. No matter what you feel about certain songs, one thing you cannot say is that this band is not having some of the most diversive one-night stands they've ever had in the history of this band as far as song variety. So here's a little bit of a chart here for every single full band 2-night stand in Charleston at this venue, now Credit One Stadium, previously Volvo Cars. This is a tennis facility that they've converted to play live music for various bands. I remember Fish coming out to play here. Shout out to Fish, banning tarps and cracking down on rail riders. But this is a venue that is very intimate. Yeah, the upper levels of this venue are still very close. It is the length of a tennis court versus the length of of larger surfaces, or the length from the furthest back you can be from the stage. And so Charleston Night 1 in 2022, there were 7 songs repeated from the previous show. Charleston Night 1 2023, there were 6 songs that were repeated from the previous show. And tonight we had 3 songs and 1 segue or transitional or short little segue, whatever you want to call it, PNP, Pantala Nagapampa. You had 4 total, but really 3 songs, 1 segue, and one of those songs was a song that they are road testing called Peace on Earth in the full band variety. And ironically, since the band has been playing full band Peace on Earth, there has literally been turmoil across the world, even worse than before this song was played full band. So everybody wants peace on earth, but yo, Dave, I don't know what you did, but it's crazy out there. And I pray for civilians across the entire world impacted by war. But it's just impressive what they're doing. I'm not a fan of Sledgehammer. Let me make that clear. I'm not a fan of Sledgehammer being covered by D&B at this point. I love Peter Gabriel. Live in Athens is a top 10 live album to me of all my favorite live albums. Live in Athens is in that top 10. But people like it. The band was having fun on stage. Right? I don't like Cornbread, but again, this is only the second play, 6-show tour gap, and Sledgehammer has a 9-show tour gap. Only 2 cover songs tonight, and that is something that, again, it could be much worse as far as 3 or more, and that's not the case. And the beginning of this show, you get a Warehouse, which is, I believe, the 3rd time that Warehouse has been played this tour as an opener. And you get an encore that is the exact same as the previous show. So before this, when I was looking at the stats, making that graphic, you saw, I was like, oh, it's only 1 repeat, Peace on Earth, and then 1 segue, but then they added to it. Then it is what it is. Shout out to Patrick O'Brien. Patrick, just reach out to me, text me. If you want to come on the show live tomorrow, let me know. I know you were down there from New York State, came down to Low Country in South Carolina. The other thing that I want to point out, shout out to SiriusXM, Dave Matthews Band, Channel 30. The other thing that's noticeable is Dave seemed to be struggling vocally, and he played a lot of songs that are not good for a voice that is struggling. That's was an interesting observation I had, and I know it looks. Rich D says Dave's voice was off a little tonight. When you play a song like Warehouse, like I'm leaving, right? When you play a song like Blackjack that you haven't played in a while, when you play a song like Sledgehammer and then Madman's Eyes back to back, these are not the songs you want to play if you're struggling vocally. So it is interesting. I'd love to know what Rab thinks about this. And, obviously he's there to support Dave. Shout out to Rab, who helps him recover. But I do hope Dave's voice recovers from tonight. And who knows how that happened. But nonetheless, regardless of the voice, see, I don't care as much about the vocal performance. I care more about the musical stuff. And I care more about the songs and just the songs that are selected. So to me, it doesn't bother me as much. I know other people, the vocals do matter to you, especially if you're at that show. There's been eras and times where Dave's voice has been shot throughout a tour, and that can put a damper on somebody's, experience. But what I respect that Dave just plays these shows, show after show, year after year, and is still here playing all these summer tour stops this late into his career. All right, so we have 4 tour debuts that came, 7 Again and Again, Blackjack, and Digging a Ditch. My theme for these tour debuts, these are not, now 7 has that some electric guitar. But listening on Sirius XM radio, even just take away 7, the other 3 songs are very, the best way to describe it is not this loud wall of sound. They're smooth and they have some fun, and you have some horns here on these songs, and you have some acoustic guitar and Digging a Ditch. But this show seemed to be less about wall of sound DMB. You have a Don't Drink to end the show. You have a Warehouse to open up, but even Warehouse has some fun parts. You can hear everyone. And overall, on listening to this live on SXM, it seemed more like you could actually hear this band be smooth and jazzy and acoustic. You could hear Dave's guitar, you could hear the bass, and there was more space. When you have a song like Pig played live, there's a lot of space in those choruses for the like. I like open space with DMB where it can breathe out and it's not just pushing you in the face. Blackjack had a build up, right? Again and Again had that clean electric guitar of Tim Reynolds, which is better than I think anything distorted for the most part with DMB. And Digging a Ditch again is a very acoustic heavy song. So I like that element. Some people may want that it's a Friday night, I want it loud and I want it rocking, but I liked how they kind of kept it cool. And for Blackjack to come back, first one on the East Coast since 2012, and really you have Toronto was the last one in the Eastern time zone, but then before that, 5/25/12, my first DMB show was the last true like U.S. East Coast show to have a Blackjack. It's been a long time. And so I don't care as much how it sound, if it was off, if it you could argue it's not, the original versions of this song with a different lineup, it was really busting back in this year. I could care less. I'd rather have the band working on Blackjack than playing another When the World Ends, which, by the way, is still missing. And I love that it's been missing in action. Please do not report. If you find When the World Ends, please do not report it back to the set list. Because since they stopped playing that song, everything has been so much more diversive in their set list formats. 40 Wanting to Say Goodbye is always a great time. Yet again, we get a situation where 41 has a flip of the solos, and also 41 is being played very short. There's been a couple times over the last couple of years where the full band has cut it down under 8 minutes. Not many, but there's been a couple times. I went to look at shout out to the DMB Almanac, right? The one that we have here for 6/13/25, which is Riverbend, that one clocked in at 7 minutes and 31 seconds. That's one of the shortest 41s that we've had in a while. But here's my thing. I think it's fine being this short. You know why? If you don't have a sax solo in this song, have Tim wrap it up, have Rashawn wrap it up, and before the last month, 41 in pretty much post-pandemic 41 full band, you had a quick trumpet solo, and then you had Tim have a long solo. I would rather have 41 get cut down to below 8 minutes if you're not going to have that saxophone. People complain about the violin, and that's your right to complain. They should have violin. Listen, I would love violin. The reality is they don't have any band member that plays violin, a real violin, right? And I Buddy filling in some of the parts is better than nothing. I like what Buddy does because if he doesn't do stuff like during the Stone, it leaves more open space. But there's no violin player. So the thing that frustrates me is we have a sax player by the name of Mr. Jeff Coffin, and 41, which to me is one of those ultimate jazzy songs, still does not have a sax solo or some sort of build up at the end of it with the sax leading the way. No goose. But we need the sax to lead the way. But nonetheless, you get a Say Goodbye after that. And Say Goodbye has that acoustic percussive, Jeff on the flute. I love this combo. Please keep doing this. 41 to Say Goodbye, always a great time. And continuing again, the acoustic percussive, the soulful sax. We get a Lying in the Hands of God into ABI. And I love, to me, the chord progressions in Lying in the Hands of God are the best off of the Big Whiskey studio track listing, the regular studio track listing. I love Beach Ball from the Little Red Bird EP, amongst other songs. But to me, it's the most intriguing chord progression as a musician myself, compared to the rest of Big Whiskey, which is more rock based and quick in and out of your face. Lying in the Hands of God can be an awesome journey when executed well, when not stretched out too long, just enough, right? You had some very long versions of Lying in the Hands of God when Big Whiskey came out, but having just enough, and having, I like what Buddy does with it. I love just, again, the mood and theme of it. And then you have American Baby intro right after, and this thing is still a wagon. ABI is still a wagon. It is raising up Setlist and elevates Setlist whenever it is played. And you have a 9 and a 10 song that this combination, which I've praised, same thing with ABI and the Break Free. We have not got Break Free this tour yet. Those two combinations are great, but this one, Lying in the Hands of God into American Baby intro, it's something where you don't even feel like you're listening to a Big Whiskey song and a stand-up song, right? You feel like you're listening to two solid songs back to back. But you're like, when you say, oh, they're going to play a bunch of Big Whiskey songs, you're like, oh, we've already heard those. Or, oh, they're going to play a bunch of stand-up songs. Oh, no, thank you. But these two songs, when these check the boxes off for the respective albums, I love it. We get a Jane thrown in after that, and then we get to the Stone, which to me is a masterpiece no matter who is playing. I don't care that there's not a violin. Play the Stone more. At no point will you ever hear me say, oh man, there's no violin. This song is ruined. This song is cooked. No, the Stone is amazing no matter who is playing it. It could be synth violin, it could be no violin, it could just be Dave Matthews playing it solo. This song is a masterpiece. Play it. I would love it to be played at almost every show I go to. And you heard some of that at the beginning, in the intro. You heard some of the Stone there, and it's just a phenomenal thing. And Jeff Coffin on that soprano sax. He is just phenomenal. And that's what I want. That's what I want to bring in. Matt says in the chat, you should take a look at what they are doing for the XMs as repeats. I did look at that. I texted, shout out to Mark Madeira. I texted him. I texted him about that there were 7 repeats I counted. What was this? Before the encore. And let's see if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7 repeats from Sirius XM's Friday night, the Riverbend show. So you have 7 repeats from Riverbend. May just be it would be smart to give us a huge variety. They've all been great so far. Yeah, and that's where again people like to say, oh, it's Sirius XM. They're gonna give us some different sets. Not necessarily true. Again, we have 7 repeats from Friday. I think the band is hyper focused. They're not focused on Sirius XM right now. They're hyper focused on the previous show that they just played. If it's not a 2-night stand, what can we do different from that last show we went to? And I'd rather them do that than try to make the Friday night concert series is more diverse. Now, again, I would love both. I'd love them to mix, but I think I'd rather them be just focused on the previous show. And the reason is because even though there's a little bit of a break in between St. Louis and Charleston, no matter where you are on the tour, there are fans who will, even if there are 4 or 5 days off, will follow the band for 3 or 4 shows. And what they try to do is they try to get a 2-night stand like Charleston and do a show after that or a show before that. And for many fans, if you have weekends off, if you're a teacher, you can go to St. Louis with the band. You could even do Riverbend St. Louis, go back home, and then maybe you're closer to Charleston, or maybe you live in the Midwest, you drive to Riverbend in St. Louis, you get back home wherever you are in the Midwest, like my friends Jess and Wayne. Now, they didn't go to Charleston, but you could theoretically then make a flight out of going to Charleston for the next weekend. And so I would rather this band focus on looking at the night before and just saying, all right, whatever we played the night before, we're going to try to do as little repeats as possible. Peace on Earth is going to be road tested. PNP is a transition, and it went into Pig this time, which Pig hadn't been played since Friday. And then, yes, the encore did have 2, the E1 and the E2 were previously played the last show. That could be a point of contention, but if you're going to both nights, there's room for even other songs to pop in that weren't played for St. Louis in that encore for tomorrow night. And so a lot of people seem happy with this set. Obviously, these sets are not going to please everyone. I still don't get this. This is probably the most over, and this is from Reddit. Every time there's a night one that someone likes, they're like, how can they top night one? I don't know if we're following the same band. Dave Matthews Band has an incredible catalog that cannot be captured in 2 shows, let alone 3 shows. You could have 3 gourd shows full of bangers, and they could still have a 4th night theoretically that still had a lot of gems. This show, I think, is a great show, or I would say a good show. Some people may say it's great. But I think this is a really good show. This is continuing the momentum of the band. They could easily top this show. The encore, you pick something really solid for that E1 spot instead of Rye Whiskey, which Dave did talk a story about seeing, was it Bob Seger? During the Dave's, like right before Rye Whiskey. But they could easily play an E1 10 times better. They could play a full band E1. It would clear this encore 1 spot. And then Billy's is a great song, right? It's a great song, but you could easily put something like Halloween, Two-Step. I know people feel a way about it. Some people don't like Halloween, but you could easily pick numerous songs to close out a show that would clear the Billies from tonight. Still love that Billy's close. I'd rather have it than Crush or some of the other choices we've seen over the years that to me just aren't as bussin'. Billy's is a great song and it's got 9 plays so far this tour, but they could easily top this show and build on the great foundation they laid tonight. But anytime you get Stone in a show, it's a phenomenal show. Anytime you get something like Blackjack, which has only been played now twice since 2012, or since you go back to from 2013 to present, only been played twice. Last played in 2012, prior to the Gorge selection last year, Gorge Night 1, and then Charleston Night 1 tonight. But this is a great thing to build on, and I look forward to seeing what the band's going to do for night 2. Because this is just, again, the theme of this year is, well, tonight we had an opener that already had been played, but you're seeing a little slightly more show opener diversity in the first leg of this tour than last year, where we had like 2 or 3 When the World Ends in the first, 9 or 10 shows. But I'd rather have this band be on this. Let's look at the previous show and not try to really play anything from it. I'd rather that mindset than other things that could be hyper focused in on. All right, we're gonna go to some fan reactions. If you want to come on the show, where Patrick said he sounds good for tomorrow. If you want to come on the show tomorrow and you're in Charleston or gonna be heading to night 2, please message me, Instagram, Facebook, X. I am on Blue Sky. I don't really check it anymore, to be honest, but periodically. But I will check it tomorrow just to see. But I'd love to have you on, add you into the back. I call it the back room chat, and then I can add you into the main show when ready to have you on. But I'd love to get some of you guys on to get people live. But we have some video reviews, and I like this as well. You can send your video reviews to me as well on social media. Tag me. I'll pull the video and play it live. But I do have a couple here. So first, we're going to look at Rob Williams. He's just going to give us some vibes throughout the show. And I love this because Rob and his daughter have bonded over seeing D&B shows. This is their thing that they do, and I love it. I remember they were at a show right before Father's Day last year, and it warmed my heart here. So let's go ahead and look at Rob. This is Rob Williams. Let's take a listen to what he experienced here.
What's up, Marcus? We back. Night 1. We'll let you know what happens, my friend.
And as always, it's just great to see Rob and his daughter out there having a great time. That's what he calls, that's his baby girl, as he says. And thank you for sending that in, Rob. We have some a two-part video. I merged all of Rob's stuff together, but I have two videos from Kumi, just a review in two different parts. So we got part one here. Let's play part one of Kumi. Let me set this up here.
What's up? It's Kumi, DMB, also known as DMB Fan JTR, coming at you from the parking lot at Credit One Stadium here in Charleston, South Carolina, for Marcus's stream, post-show stream. I am kind of still in awe of that show. It is crazy that we got Blackjack tonight, in my opinion. I think that's like one of those songs that I like for sure was like, oh, they're gonna play it at the Gorge once and I'm never gonna hear it outside of that. And it was awesome finally seeing that, and I was just so stunned that that happened. I mean, like, that's one of those songs, like when I first heard ABI back in 23, that I was like, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So seeing Blackjack was just incredible. For me, this venue, in South Carolina is an awesome venue. If you haven't checked it out yet, please check it out. It is a tennis stadium, and they make it into a concert venue for Dave and other acts. There are no screens anywhere, so there's not a bad seat in the house. Today I was in the pit. I was really fortunate to get like one row behind rail. I got early entry. But the stage is a little high if you're in the pit. Like if you're gonna go to the pit, and you're only doing the pit for a select few shows, I probably wouldn't recommend doing it here, just because the stage is so high. You're not really at the level you would be at other venues. But I love this venue. I always try to come out here when I can, when they have when DMB plays here. But yeah, I'm still kind of in shock of what I just saw with Blackjack. I mean, it was a great set overall. We got the Stone, we got ABI. I've been digging Peace on Earth as well. I just got Peace on Earth for the second time, full band, which is, I've kind of enjoyed. It's better than it was, solo acoustic, in my opinion. But yeah, I really had a great show. I feel like the crowd around me, there's a lot of people who have been following Dave for a while, and there's a handful of people who are casual fans, a lot of older fans with their kids as well. The crowd, I feel like, really loved 41, and they really loved Rye Whiskey. I don't know why, but I feel like a lot of people really like Rye Whiskey in the E1 spot. I've heard a huge roar in St. Louis and here for Rye Whiskey. I mean, to each their own. We also got 4 tour debuts in a row. That was pretty cool. I was really happy when we heard Again and Again instead of Sledgehammer when Dave came out with no guitar in his hands, but unfortunately we did get Sledgehammer later on. But the crowd really liked it. It was honestly one of the loudest points in the show. Sledgehammer and 41 were probably the loudest points in the show, but the highlight for me definitely was just Blackjack. I mean, like I said earlier, like, getting that is something I never thought I'd get. So we'll see if it sticks around, or whether it's a one-off. But if it's a one-off, getting that in Charleston is pretty awesome. You might expect that at a Deer Creek or like an Alpine or like a Guilford, but getting it in Charleston, and if it just stays here, that would be crazy. So I definitely expect it to come back, but just some thoughts there on Blackjack. But I think the poster was really cool also. Marcus might have already talked about it so far on the stream, but it was an homage to the St. Michael's Cathedral or church here in Charleston. And I love posters that do homages to the cities that they're in, or any sort of relevant cultural thing. But that was really cool, so I did end up getting the foil on that one. I got in line pretty early. The early entry they let us in at 5:15 or so. So I was out here for a long time today. But I really enjoyed my time in Charleston on night 1. In night 2, I'll be at section 212, so I'll be able to give you a little different perspective tomorrow. But anyone that can make it out here, I definitely recommend this venue. I feel like there's not a bad seat in the house. So that's all I have for right now. Thanks for having me on, Marcus, and I'll see you at the next one.
All right, so that was Kumi and his things. We'll get to the poster in a second. I wanted to bring up something here because shout out to DMB Lauren on X. Of course, her husband Mark was hitting me up, giving me updates throughout the night, including Lauren's favorite song is The Stone, and they have 3 children, and one of the children asked, "What song is this?" as The Stone was playing. So someone's gonna get education on The Stone. Her oldest son Maddox, I think it was the 70th show. So shout out to Maddox. The younger 2 kids have a little bit less. They're a little bit lighter on the touring, like 40 something and 30 something shows. Old to have parents like that would take me to Dave shows in the 90s. But just kidding. My parents loved me, and I wouldn't change them. But I want to go back to 23, and I want to show you something here. So one thing Lauren said is that it was frustrating for fans who went to both Charleston and Wilmington, North Carolina in 2023. And this is why that stat I had at the beginning is a positive step in the right direction. So 5/30, 2023, they go to Wilmington, North Carolina. They play the 31st as well. Right? And you see it right there. So you have those 2 shows. Now, here's the thing. We get to night 1, 2023 of Charleston. Any song that you see last in the last column as a 1 or a 2, those were songs played in Wilmington. So if we count them out, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 songs here that were played in the Wilmington, North Carolina 2-night stand that they had in 2023. So night 1, you have 11 songs that if you went to both of these, you live in the Carolinas, or you came down here for 4 shows thinking you were going to get all sorts of setlist diversity, you got 11 songs. 11 total songs that were played either night 1 or night 2 of Wilmington, North Carolina. We're going to go to night 2 of Charleston, and what you see as 2s and 3s are repeats from Wilmington because this is night 2. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Is that, if I have my math right, there's only 1 song. I'm sorry, guys. If you went to these, this is just wild. This is crazy work. The only song that was not played in Wilmington is So Right and this partial of I Want You, She's So Heavy. 19 of 20 songs for Charleston Night 2, 2023, they were played in Wilmington, North Carolina, the closest venue a 2-night stand run before this. That is crazy work right there, folks. And it just goes to show you how the band focusing on not repeating stuff from the previous tour stop. In this case, there were 2 previous shows in Wilmington, North Carolina, and saying, hey, we're going to mix it up a bit. Because you're getting double duty. You have 1 song. Thank you, Lauren, for posting that comment on my original stat. Because this is crazy work. Now, yes, Bismarck is a rarity. To get 2 Bismarcks, that's cool. But do you need 2 after everything's? Do you need to hear that song twice? I don't think so. The band doesn't even play it anymore. Oops, I hit my water. See, I'm hitting stuff now. Do you need 2 Jimmy things? Now, yes, Break Free, Lion Our Graves, these are great songs. Do you need 2 Virginia in the Rains in a 4-show run? I love that song. I'll take it just once. And so it's almost like in 2023, you were almost better off just going to Charleston. You were better off just going to Charleston and not going to Wilmington, North Carolina. Right? There's a lot of good stuff in here. Night 2, and then night 1, you get Boa, tour debut. But this is how far the band is coming. By the way, again, if you're just tuning in, this is the 2023 shows. So the diversity of it is amazing. Richard says live tracks worthy. I don't think this show tonight is live tracks worthy. I don't think it's live, and it's also on Sirius XM. It's almost a waste of a live tracks. Yes, they're gonna do more in post production on the live tracks, but I don't think it's live. I think this is a good show tonight. But you have I don't think it's a live track show, especially the encore Rye Whiskey. Like Billy's is a fun one, but this is the same encore from St. Louis. So this is a good show. Make no mistake about it. I don't think it's a live tracks worthy show. When you look at live track 69 in Guilford, that show is live tracks worthy for this current era because you have a JTR opener, you have Sugar Will, you have all this other stuff. Yes, Blackjack is a huge addition, but I don't think this is a live tracks worthy show. I think it's a good show to have on Sirius XM. But hey, to each your own. All right, let's talk about the poster. So I'm just crossing off stuff. I have a checklist here. We talked about Dave's voice. We talked about the stats. Let's talk about the poster because one thing I want to give credit to is the poster has a lot of kind of meanings in it. So we're going to take a look at some of that stuff here. And shout out to Justin Helton. Status Serigraph is his kind of like art name or whatever you have. But he kind of gave some details. And so this was on one of the poster groups. I saw this today, but I wanted to point out just because I like when artists put some thought into this, right? And you have a little bit of, sometimes artists will have a little bit of history for the local venue, a landmark. Sometimes the band's music will be incorporated into the actual art. Justin gave us both. All right, so let's take a look at this here. And it says, here you guys go. I think that anyone that's been to Charleston can see where my theme came from. I'll be posting some more information on my Instagram here shortly, edited to add some insight below. Well, lyrics often help me create ideas for concert posters, but sometimes it's a mix of lyrics and influence of local culture. This time was definitely the case. I always seem to notice that Dave Matthews Band singing about spirits or ghosts or life after death. This theme seemed perfect to me when being asked to create a print for night 1 of their Charleston shows, a city rich with ghost culture and history. The ghost scene of St. Michael's Church is my gift to all you lucky enough to attend tonight's show. Have a blast if you're there. If you miss out, there's a handful on Monday, blah, 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 blah. But you have a local landmark. You have the palmettos that you have there at the bottom of this, and you have these ghosts. And even number 41, all of once the ghosts come out, reeling in you, right? And the other various songs you can think about that talk about spirits and ghosts and life after death, lie in our graves. I've said I had a video defending in many cases the poster from St. Louis and just the effort that was put into that poster. But this is one thing I talked about as far as the constructive criticism for poster artist or even the band, because sometimes the band will actually just, they will host, like they'll say, hey, here's a slot, make us a generic poster and we're going to fill in a gap of this tour. They'll tell an artist that. So the artist has no idea if it's going to be for Charleston night 2 or if it's going to be for Gorge night 2. They're just told to make a poster idea. And so sometimes that can set the poster up for criticism. So I get that. I empathize with poster making, but I understand the band has to they have to fill in so many holes. But when you have a landmark and you have the band's music all wrapped into one, this is brilliant. And this is what I love to see from artists. I know some artists don't do this type of thing. They just have an art idea and they put it out there. But this combination, historical landmarks and in nearby history, lore, mythical tales, and combine it with the band's music in some way, or a logo from the band like a fire dancer. That to me is what makes a great DMB poster. So shout out to Justin Helton and what he did here, because I think this is the gold standard when this amount of thought is put in to a poster. Right. So we talked about the poster. A couple other minor notes and we'll be out of here. So the fall tour thing, and this is just more of a response to Reddit. I do like Reddit in the sense of like, hey, people want to know stuff. Here's an answer. If I know something or I have that, here's an answer to it. But this seems to be an issue for people like until I hear the band is not playing in the fall, I'm not gonna lose hope. And listen, I get it. I get it. You want to hear something official. Here's the reality. 9 times out of 10, the band is not going to confirm something until closer to the time of like after the Gorge, or they may not even confirm or make an announcement themselves at all. And so this fall tour, is the band going to tour this fall? And listen, I know some of you guys have questions. You want to know what I think, or you want to know what other people think. And my thing with the fall tour is this. I give it a 1% chance of DMB playing a fall tour. And that's just being generous and saying, that's just being generous to say that that things can change on a dime, or they could have some sort of fundraiser or charity event they decide to play. But I give them a 1% chance of playing any shows after the announced shows so far for the summer tour. The Flecktones have Jeff Coffin coming back with them. They're going to be, the earliest date we have is November 30th. Now, yes, the band typically wraps up a quick run amongst, Mohegan, MSG, and sometimes they go out to Columbus or they go down south to like South Carolina, or somewhere else. Savannah, I think a couple years ago. Yes, that like they could still do that in theory. But I don't believe Jeff Coffin is going to go from a MSG type run in November to then play with the Flecktones. I think Jeff is going to take some time, work with the Flecktones, and they're not going to have like, that's one just piece of evidence. The other thing is this band has been touring a lot over the last year and a half, 2 years. They went to Europe last year. This year they just went to Brazil, even though they had some days off and they seemed to play great after it, coming back from Brazil. They've been touring a lot, and the crew themselves has been working very hard. And the crew themselves has had falls that have been busy with prep and getting things set up for the fall tour. And as efficient and as convenient it is to do Mohegan and MSG plus a couple other shows, it's not as taxing as a full West Coast, Midwest, back to the East Coast type thing that they did a couple years ago. It still is something where I think the full band themselves will not be together in that form. I think if anything, Dave will do something with Tim or with his friends. I don't really think there's going to be a Dave and Friends per se. If it is, it's going to be a different lineup. I don't think Trey's pulling up, but it could happen. It's much more possible. Like, it's possible. But I think you could have a Dave and Friends. You're going to have a Jeff Coffin coming back with the Flecktones. But I just don't see the full band touring. And that's just using all the resources available and all the information we have from the tip I got from my friend about the Flecktones tour last year. I was able to report that thanks to my friend there who was at a meet and greet for Victor Wooten. But I just don't think there's going to be a fall tour. And I get people want to know, but a lot of this stuff, again, the way show business works, the promotion of certain things like that doesn't even start until they get through their full run through the gorge. And I know they're going to be going to LA and stuff like that, but like, I just don't see it. But again, crazier things have happened. I think the band deserves a break. This in my wallet, but I mean, I think the band should take that time off. And it's different if Dave is doing something with Tim, if he's doing something with Dave and Friends. It's a different, it's another avenue of releasing creativity that isn't wearing out his DMB muscle. So I really hope, as much as I hope the full band doesn't tour, I'd rather have Dave doing something else or have the band take time off. And then Jeff Coffin does what he does. Rashawn's probably going to be playing different events. What else? Oh, next thing is Boston Calling. This is my, I did want to give some insight on, just because there's been some interesting things going on with festivals. First, Bonnaroo. Bonnaroo is now offering full refunds for last weekend. If you're not familiar, Bonnaroo, Friday to Sunday, it was just there was so much rain, and that part of Tennessee where the farm is, where they play, is not meant for heavy rain. And there's just been this year parts of Tennessee and even upstate New York, here in Connecticut. This weekend is the first weekend, I think, since my son has been born where we're not going to get any rain Saturday or Sunday. There's no forecasted rain Saturday. My son was born in March. That's a long time. We've had rain every weekend, at least through March. And really, some parts of New Hampshire and upstate New York, it's been since the fall of 24. They've had rain every single weekend. But Boston Calling said this, and this is just something, it's going to put some notice for Mansfield and Hartford, because we don't have this. So they said this to our fans: thank you for the experience. As we look ahead, Boston Calling will take a short break in 2026 as we gear up for an exciting return on a new weekend, June 4th through 6th of 2027. So I think one of the things that, like, this year, the weather was pretty rough. May in Boston can be beautiful or it can be rainy. And I've seen both in the last 34 years of my life, but really just the last 20 years of being, obviously I'm, 34 years ago, I was a baby. But the last 20 years or so, I can tell you that there's been some washout Memorial Days where I'm at the Memorial Day parade there, remembering those who gave their life. And it's just, we have umbrellas, right? And there's been some days it's been absolutely beautiful. But sometimes it's a washout and sometimes it's very beautiful. So the weather can get pretty cold, as it did this Memorial Day weekend. I think Boston Calling's like, let's get to this June. Because when you get to June, Boston doesn't get that many severe thunderstorms per se as other markets. It could still happen. They could still have a washout, but it's going to be warmer, and it's just less likely that Boston's going to get severe thunderstorms on June 4th through 6th. And you're going to increase the odds of just moving it to June. You can have a May where it's freezing, you have a winter jacket, and the next week you're wearing sandals and shorts and a t-shirt. So I think this is a good move for Boston Calling. But what does this mean for DMB? Obviously no one was going to say DMB was going to play this festival back-to-back weekend, like years. I doubted you don't have a headliner back-to-back years like that. But it just tells us already this is the biggest festival in the Boston metro. But we just can look ahead and say, okay, this will not get in the way. Boston Calling will not be around in 26. And so the band will have to decide if they're going to play Mansfield and Hartford or both. I wouldn't like it. It's something where personally, I would love to see Hartford and Mansfield, but at the same time, the shows vary and the band having to travel from stop to stop, even though these are not that far of a drive, but just mentally, this band staying in Charleston tonight and coming back for a night too, it's a better band in my opinion. When they stay in the same city for a couple of nights, they're going to put on a better product 9 times out of 10. So I don't see a pathway where they're going to play 2 nights in Hartford or Mansfield, but I will go to the shows if they announce them, but I'm all about these 2-night stands. Right now, that's where my mind is these 2-night stands. Bonnaroo though is interesting because if like this is non-DMB per se, but these festivals are not equipped. There's been just unusual weather pattern changes throughout the whole country as far as weather and rain and storms and things like that. And so a lot of the heavy rain and tornadoes, all that stuff, what Tornado Alley used to actually be, what it was is not the same as it is now. Parts of Texas and Oklahoma are seeing less tornadoes and less heavy rain and hail and all that stuff. And parts of Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, a little bit of like Kansas and Missouri, they're seeing more tornadoes and more rain, heavy rain and flooding than they did 30, 40, 50, 60 years of data. And I say all that to say that festivals like Bonnaroo, which are also, Bonnaroo is also taking a little bit of a pause. They are going to have to figure out ways to make the campgrounds or farmland or wherever they are, pilgrimage, same thing. They're going to have to find ways to drain water very quickly. They're going to have to find ways to make it so that they can mitigate some of the weather situations that occur. And yes, in yesteryear, they used, like, if this was 10, 15 years ago, Bonnaroo probably would have still played through the storms. And that's just how it would have been. But now it's just a different age. And it is what it is. Certain bands aren't going to play in the rain. It is what it is, right? You could call it what it is. Oh, they're soft or this, that. It's just the way show business is nowadays versus 15, 20. I mean, some of these festivals in the early years, it wasn't widely reported, but there were it was mud and rain and all sorts of stuff, problems with it, but people just had fun and they were young, wild, and free. But it's just a different age. So these festivals really need to figure out, especially like the ones that are on these farmlands or they're on this grass that can flood easily and they've dodged bullets year over year, or maybe they just didn't get as much rain as they projected and the show went on, but you have to prepare for the worst case. And a lot of these festivals are resetting. Some of these festivals are folding. The festival model is very volatile right now. And the ability I think the hardest thing, it's like a salary cap in sports. These festivals they're trying to turn profits. And they got to get everyone paid, but it's more expensive to book certain artists. So it's an interesting thing. This is just intriguing to me because with festivals, like you like, there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of things. It's hard to keep the momentum going. You can book a band like Dave Matthews Band for SPAC every year, and SPAC doesn't have to worry. The fans will show up. You have a festival every year. You have to almost one up the previous year. And then every year you could be greeted with a new type of logistical challenge. The price of things go up. You can have rain that comes in like never before for this festival. And so these models are very volatile, meaning, listen, they could easily go under or shut down in any given, year of hardship. And I don't even want to know how much the insurance is paying out for these canceled shows. And again, Bonnaroo offering full refunds. Even though Thursday had some music, they're offering full refunds for everyone at the point of purchase for Bonnaroo. So it is what it is. All right, we'll be back tomorrow. It's your boy Conserviz34. We will close out. Oh, you know what? Let me say this. I forgot about this. There's an update. Let me bring up some photos. Shout out to Lucas Santos, and I love Lucas because he's given me updates not only from Brazil, but also he gave me some updates from Europe last year. But this is a really cool story, and I wanted to share it with you guys. So here are some photos that Lucas sent me. And so Lucas is the guy to the right with the fire dancer. And I don't know who that is, but he made a friend here. So Lucas went to Europe last year and met an American D&B fan up across the pond. And so they met, they hung out. They really enjoyed hanging out in Europe. And so Lucas, his home state of Brazil, got these shows, and this American fan decided to travel down to Brazil as well to then also reconnect with Lucas. So this was during those Brazil shows. They saw the show together. They had their arms around them. And this is beautiful. This is just, to me, what it's all about. Creating lifelong friends, in this case, two friends from two different continents coming together because of the music of Dave Matthews Band. This is what it's about. We can talk about the fans who are rude. We can talk about all the negative stuff. But seeing these pictures, and Lucas has sent these to me a while back, but I haven't been on Instagram as often. But I saw these pictures. I wanted to share this with you because this is what is beautiful about this world. There is hate, there is anger, there is resentment in this world, but through it all, music connects us all, and most importantly, the music of Dave Matthews Band connects people. And I just think of all the people that I've met through DMB, and this time last year, I was staying at my friend's house. I typically turn down people saying, "Oh, you want to stay at my house?" I'm like, no, thank you. But I've gotten to the point where my friends Jessica and Wayne, we are so close. We are family now, right? And to the point where I stayed over their house, and I had the time of my life. A couple other people were staying over as well, other DMB fans, and here you go. This is what DMB does. The music of DMB brings people together from multiple continents, from different countries, and they plan trips to travel across the world to hang out. And I'll end on that. We'll end on that high note. And again, I'm looking forward to coming back here for Charleston Night 2 and just talking about a fire set list that comes. I'm sure that'll be coming for the second night. It's your boy Conserviz34. Thank you guys for watching, and peace.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Bella Fleck happened to be me. So we thought the best thing to do would be to start off by playing a song that Bella's never heard before. No. Just to even the playing field. us almost missing again.